Okay. So again, Michael Cundick is my name. Basically from here, grew up, born and raised in Utah. I'm a certified permaculture designer. I've been a musician for a really long time, and I helped build this place. 6 years ago, I founded a thing called Artists for Local Agriculture, which is still kicking in a lot of ways. I'm glad to see the legacy's been happening. But I have been gone for several months when I picked up on the opportunity to visit and apprentice at a permaculture farm in southern Utah. Permaculture is a very broad subject, but most people here have probably heard the term quite a bit, especially if you were here for Denise's presentation yesterday. If you get into permaculture, you can become a little bit fanatical about it. To try and put it really simply, it's a conscious design, science, and system for human settlement. That's all. Just trying to figure out how do we live in such a way that the earth around us provides all of our needs, but not at the expense of our environment, to the point where it becomes so degraded that we're risking our future generations and maybe some of the happier things we'd want to see out of a long-term existence here in this beautiful planet. So permaculture is really a lifetime, a multi-generational lifetime quest to find what we can do to stick around on this beautiful planet if that is what the human species desires. So I'm pretty sure I know what I want to do and what I want to see in the world, and the easiest way to describe it is permaculture. That's why I have that brand and that little flag, permaculture, permaculture. But the how we get there and why we would even bother caring enough about future generations or changing our habits or reducing our needs and doing other things, those are much deeper and more difficult questions to answer. Because permaculture, the founder likes to point out that the problems we have today are increasingly complex, but the solutions are embarrassingly simple. And I think what he means by that is we have so many examples throughout the world, not just in indigenous cultures, but modern cultures, that have managed to live in such a way where the land around them gets better and more fertile and stronger while still supporting the human community. So the point is the technology and the strategies exist that could lead to essentially heaven on earth, or however you want to look at a really abundant, your needs are fulfilled, you're happy. That's what we want. So if we know that we can do it and we have those strategies, then what's stopping us? Permaculture is easy to talk about because it is such a tangible thing. Is your system providing you food? Is it getting better? Is the water system working? Is the sun shining? Are we getting energy from it? Those are all very tangible things. But the social structures, what generates that, is a little more difficult. Our politics, our economy is not necessarily geared towards creating those systems. And even trickier than that is our cultural aspects. What about our religions? What about our traditions? What about our deep held beliefs? How are those either helping or hindering the ability for us to live sustainably on this planet? Part of this talk, I kind of wanted to frame it as like, let's enhance our vocabulary about what holistic or regenerative or permaculture or all these words that are thrown around, how similar are they really, and how quickly can we get to the root of what they really mean. So, as we delve into that, here's some interesting things about the word holistic. Most people, at least before I got into it, holistic to them thinks holistic medicine is where you hear it the most often. You don't really think of just the word holistic. How often have you thought about holistic thinking or holistic science or holistic this or that? Where does holistic even come from? Well, in the 1920s, there was a strange man named J.C. Smuts from Africa that wrote a book called Holism and Evolution. That's where the term holism first really came from. And what he's trying to say is that everything on Earth, whether it's an idea or a thing, whatever, it's its own thing, right? It's independently a thing, like the cell in our body is a cell, but it's also interdependently part of the whole. So to be able to think holistically is actually extremely critical in this day and age. If we want to have productive conversations and productive ways to move forward in a way that we're happy and excited about the future, we all got to start stretching a little bit more and start thinking about holistically. We can't just say one issue is the issue, because that issue is affected by so many other issues in so many other different ways. You can think of it like a master architect, right? He's putting together this ginormous building project. He's not just going to call in the electrician and have him tell him what to do. The electrician will say, oh, I want this and this and this. It's easy. So, well, what about where my water's going to go, the parking garage, the water system? There's all these other things. He's not going to invite just the specialist to the designer's table. So this conversation, this talk today, is kind of about giving you a theoretical invitation to sit at the designer's table for the future of mankind. If you have an idea of what the world should be or what you would like to see in the world, and you want to get it out there, it's hard for you to be taken seriously, I guess, if your ideas are not holistically sound, if you're not looking at what all the different aspects that are affecting your proposals to do. So how do we start thinking holistically? Another thing about the word holism or holistic, the term holon is kind of fun. Came out in the 60s. Ghost in the Machine was when it first started being used. A holon is a thing that is whole but also a part. You know, that's cool. There's also something called a holarchy. You know what a hierarchy is, right? We've got our boss and then our managers and then our people. That's very structured and set. A holarchy is trying to say that the very smallest form of a thing can exist whether or not the rest of the chain of the command exists. If our White House and government system were blown out of the water tomorrow, unfortunately our system is not very resilient. There would be heckloads of chaos. But in theory, if our way we ran our households, the way we ran our neighborhoods, the way we ran our cities, we're all very similar in structure and independently sound, and yet able to act interdependently when necessary, we would have a holarchy. Anyways, that's just some fun new vocabularies, whatevers. I really want to make sure the word sustainable is really seen in context when you're looking at the world, when businesses are throwing that out there, sustainable, sustainable. We all know what it is to live paycheck to paycheck, right? Well, we've been living on this earth in such a way where we continually are taking loans from Mother Earth, if you will. We're extracting all these things that are not being put back. So we are in an intense amount of debt as a culture and as a civilization. So living paycheck to paycheck or living sustainably doesn't cut it when we're this far in debt. So I want to introduce a word called regenerative that kind of trumps sustainability, where it's saying we're not just living month to month anymore, we're creating enough extra abundance for ourselves and the planet that we're paying back that debt to the earth with the long-term expectation that we're going to be a part of its existence. We really do have a choice to make here, guys. Our generation, the next, maybe the next after that, do we want to get married? Do we want to seal ourselves to this terrestrial existence and paradise? Are we stoked here on this planet? Do we want that to continue? That's kind of a theoretical question, but it's something we have to ask ourselves every day. Because if we're truly committed to enjoying this existence and getting everything we can out of our bodies and our planet, we've got to start not just taking care of ourselves, we've got to start paying it back to the people around us and the environment around us. So when you get into holons and holarchy and holistic thinking and systems theory, you might run into something called integral psychology. Most of my people's generation do not know what integral psychology is, and I'm not saying you need to, but they're all in the same boat. Have you heard the term, you're confusing the forest for the trees or the trees for the forest? Have you heard that one? Missing the forest for the trees? Is that, I don't know, I grew up knowing that one, but it never really made a lot of sense to me until a little more recently. It comes back down to that like specialist versus holistic thinker. A specialist of one tree can really know everything about the bark on that tree, and he can assume it's growing and living in a certain way and tell you what kind of termites like that tree, but his nose is so close to it, he doesn't see that the plants around it, the animals around it, the other types of trees, the whole forest ecosystem is supporting its life. And so we've got to know, well, what is this forest? Do we call it regenerative? Do we call it permaculture? Do we call it ecology, applied ecology? Do we call it integral? Does it really matter if you get the spirit of the forest? if you understand how it all interplays, it doesn't really matter the words we use. A lot of people would say one of our biggest problems in the world is fragmentation. We start along one line of thought with specific terms and a theory for it, and then someone else says, no, I think it should be slightly different, and they develop a whole new chain of books and a whole new way of presenting it, and now we think we've got to learn that way of doing it, when really they were so similar that if we can see through that a little bit and just see the forest for what it is, with or without names, we're going to be a little bit better off. I like the analogy of, say you have a basket of fruit, and you've got a bunch of artists around it. They're all going to paint that basket of fruit. It's going to turn out differently for each of them, but they're going to be able to communicate really easily that they're painting pretty much the same thing. They'll be able to work together in case they need like a fruit basket revolution, whatever. So the point is, all these different words aren't really what matters. What matters is that we're living in such a way where our environment is equivalent to our feelings of health and worth. How do I explain that? It's like the environment in my eyes and my feelings is an extension of my body. When my environment is sick, I can't call myself healthy. When my society is having the kind of glorious and artistic adventures that we're having everywhere, boy, I sure love being human, I'm glad we exist, but if our environment is degrading around us at the same time, we really can't be that excited about our prospects, folks. So what do? We want to think of the environment as an extension of our bodies, and we want to start wondering, how do we live in such a way where I am healthy, holistically healthy, meaning the environment is holistically healthy as well. Where are those strategies? What do we do? Now, I already said the what is easy. Permaculture handles the what for me. If you learn enough about it, you'll learn how to design your landscape and design what's around you to feed you and sustain and continue to be grow, and it's marvelous. But again, how we get there and why we'd even do it, that gets nuts. Okay? How do we change the political and the economic structures of our world to be able to put permaculture in the forefront of what we're doing? How do we bridge the divides between religion and culture and traditions that are keeping us from working together to create a permaculture paradise? I really like the concept of the why, how, what, or radiating outwards. Usually when I do speeches like this, I've got like, hey, I do AFLA, so afterwards sign up with me and we'll go do something tomorrow. Or I've got this thing over here, so like just call to action. I don't have that for you today. But what I think's more important than what you could do that I think's cool is if I can reach you somewhere deep inside that you can radiate outwards from and manifest permaculture in your own particular way. Because that why we get out of bed, almost goes beyond words. I can't tell you why I do what I do, but if you start to think how my why generates how I do things and finally results in how I manifest this into the world, we get a little bit of a different way of feeling. So I'm not just going to say, we need permaculture, this is how we're going to do it, there's this system and this system, sign up and do it. No, what I'm saying is I have a vision of what permaculture can do for my life and for this planet. And if you have that same vision, you, by taking the first step towards not just sustainability, but regenerative living, by you taking that first step, any one of you here could avalanche far beyond any good I've ever done and be the reason why this world continues on in health and happiness. Okay? So it's a little strange way to put it, but what I'm hoping is that we can start to think holistically. And that, when you get holistic when it comes to religion and tradition and culture and social and economics and politics and all those things you're not supposed to talk about at the dinner table, thinking holistically is very hard there, because we oftentimes are really pretty stuck in our perspective, probably for our own self-preservation. I mean, if I have a label of a certain kind, I want to stick to that because that directs my life. That's cool and all, but maybe that why, that cultural differences, we need to learn a little bit more about why that's not creating the world that we want to live in. And to think holistically, culturally, you have to get outside of your own particular perspective and see through the eyes of everybody and everything that is involved in this situation. And that can be tough. One thing that I learned on the farm just barely. I got off a 5-month internship working with cows and chickens and a gorgeous landscape and a crazy beautiful philosophical mentor and a wonderful experience down there. It's not going to work long term for my wife and I there's a lot of sadness there for it. I just 3 days fresh off the farm, I've had some tears, believe me. That kind of lifestyle was so rewarding and so healthy for us that I'd love to see that wherever we go next. And I think that it can be manifested in cities as well, but that is kind of a different, longer topic. But we need to see through the eyes of the people we're working with to live in a way where we're all regenerating and the world is regenerating with us. So one thing I learned from my beautiful, crazy mentor was about integral psychology. And this is going to get kind of weird, but I'm going to play a song to even back it up further, so it'll be kind of interesting. But there's a guy named Plato back in the Greek times. You might have heard of him. He had something called the good, the true, and the beautiful. He looked at the world with a map of his own design. We all have a map of the world, right? My map in permaculture and music is very detailed and very interesting, but if you ask me anything about rocket science, it's kind of a gray fuzzy thing over here and I don't know what's going on. Everybody here has a little different levels of maps of how deep they go into things and how they look at it, blah, blah. Plato breaks it down into 3 realms, pretty easy. Let's stick to 3s for a minute. I think I can get this idea across. I think a few of you are listening. This is good. Okay, so good, true, and beautiful. Everything, in a way, emerges in one of those 3 realms, okay? So if it's beautiful, it's subjective. I can say this mic stand is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You can't tell me otherwise because it's me and it's my inner space world saying I am art, I am beauty, that is my subjective reality. Next comes the good. That's morals. That's the realm of the we. That's the realm of me and you. That's separating out to say, I think this is beautiful, but I also understand that you think other things are beautiful, and you have this weird spiritual machine thing that you're doing that thinks things are beautiful too. But I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to steal from you. It's morals. It's good. What's good? Okay, so that's 2 of the realms. The third one is science, or what's true. If it's raining outside, and you say, no, it's not, and I put my hand out and it's raining, you're false. That's just that. This is a mic stand. It's pretty darn true. It's kind of a crappy one, but anyways. So, those 3 realms. We're dealing with the subjective, artistic realm. We're dealing with how we deal as brothers and sisters in a cultural sense. And we're dealing with what we can say is out there objectively as science. Okay? So, why does this all matter? It might not. Or it might be an interesting way for you to start thinking through a lens that gives you a more holistic understanding of the situations you get in. What I'm going to play a song in just a moment that's really brand new, and I've been having a hard time writing songs the last couple years, so this is actually kind of cool for me. I'm glad you guys are going to hear it. It's called the 1, 2, 3 of God, and I learned that from my beautiful, crazy mentor. It's saying that the way those 3 realms exist is also the way that religions and people kind of view their relationship to the divine. Now follow me here. The I am, or the subjective realm, the art realm, the I super personal, I am God. If you're Buddhist, you know exactly what I mean. It's that feeling of being the lens, the central part of what connects everything that happens, that maybe we're living in a matrix or a hologram and I don't know, but at least I know I'm real and I am God. Okay, that's one perspective. And you can get stuck in that perspective. It's driven many people absolutely batshit crazy. It's also provided a lot of peace if you're, say, the Buddha. I don't know. Second realm, thou art God. Now God is something separate from me, something that I subjugate to, something I respect and revere and have a relationship with that's not myself, it's something else. So we have a realm now that's thou art God. And in the third realm of science and it and things, it's God. It's God. That's like Shinto, or a little bit like paganism, or a little bit like the web of life. It's we're saying that everything has a spark of divinity. It's on its own course. It's doing its own thing. And that is also a very beautiful perspective. Now, oftentimes, this is where I'm getting real deep into like the cultural tradition, holistic, oh my God, we could all fight about it. I don't know. I'm not trying to fight you about it. All I'm trying to say is maybe the experience of God viewed as 3 different feelings could provide a little bit of insight and balance into what we're looking at. If I'm too I am God, I just give up on even talking to all you guys. See you later, man. This is dumb. I just live in bliss. I'm blissed out. That doesn't work forever. If thou art God, if God is absolutely, see, this is the touchy one. The thou art God is very Christian, it's very Western, it's very Judaic, and it's also very, very beautiful. A lot of our religious, I don't know how to properly give that the respect it deserves. In fact, this exercise has given me a chance to reawaken my feelings of what it is to succumb to a higher power. Whether I accept that as my only viewpoint or not, whether I subscribe to a particular religion or not, the ability to sit down and say, dear something bigger than me, help make this work, is pretty beautiful. It really is, and it's important, and it's a big part of who we are as people. And then that third thing, that web of life, realizing that everything is sacred, and everything is divine, and has its own inherent, intrinsic right to exist, is also very beautiful. So, for me, it keeps me kind of balanced. I look at it and I go, if I'm one... Anyways, I'm going to play a song now that might say it a lot better than any more of my ranting might do, and I hope you guys enjoy it. It's called The 1, 2, 3 of God. Oh, thanks, Denise. Okay. Forgive us, Mother Earth, and bless us, Father Sky. Show us, Sister Science, and guide us, Brother Mind. Spare us, Cousin Karma, of Uncle Dogma's pride. Speak, Grandmother Galaxies, while there's still Grandfather Time. I am that I am. Patriarch Polarity, illuminate our path, and spare us from extremity, tear our minds in half. Matriarch Morality, can we find you in our hearts? Or do we really need religion to tell us all apart? Oh, I am that I am, and I know that I know, and I'll find, I'll be found, and I'll be sure to let you know. Cause you are that you are, but you've seen how we've been. So if it takes a saint to save us, then I pray that I am that I am. Are we stuck down to the earth, or will we stretch beyond the skies? We'll never know how far we'll go if our roots have all run dry. Oh, 10,000 things, oh, singularity. Through the Big Bang heard and the sacred word, please show us to the light. Cause we are, that we are, that we are, that we are. And the song is so new, and I really want to get the next verse in tune. But I'll just skip instead to the chorus, because that one is pretty good too. Oh, I am that I am, and I'll find, I'll be found, and I know that I know, and I'll be sure to let you know. Cause you are that you are, and you'll be how we've been. So if it takes a saint to save us, then I pray that you are, and I pray that you believe that I am God. Thou art God. It's all God, and it's not. I am God. Thou art God, It's all good, and it's not. It's beautiful, and it's all true. It's all good, except when it's not. It's all hideous. It's all falsehood, it's all wickedness, but it's what we've got. So in case you forgot, I am that I am, and I know that I know, and I'll find, I'll be found, and I'll be sure to let you know, 'cause you are that you are, but you've seen how we've been. So if it takes a saint to save us, then I pray that I am, and I pray that you are, and I pray we all are. But most of all, I pray to Mother Earth, Father Sky, Sister Science, Brother Mind, Cousin Karma, Uncle Dogma, Grandma Galaxies, and Great-Grandfather Time. Thank you. God, I'm kind of wired. Thank you. So, I'm not exactly done. I mean, I could rant for hours, because that's just me, but I do want to play some songs from the project Jesus or Genome that I've been doing for years that I really enjoy. My wife, Naomi, is a very beautiful, talented, wonderful artist. I'm a little bit biased, but I think she's fantastic. And she's going to be painting live while I play some of these songs. And what we do is we put up a silent auction sheet up here on the stage. And if anyone wants to buy the final painting, because by the time I'm done playing, she will be done painting, we're donating 25% of it to the Snowbrush Festival. And then the rest continues my wicked meth habit. I mean, shit. I'm just kidding. I don't do that. Anyways. So we're going to do that. As far as the conversation about being at the designer's table for the future of mankind, I know that makes it sound very grandiose. I don't have the exact answers of what we all need to do next by any means, but I do have an email list up here. My wife and I have been calling it our permaculture love story ever since we got certified last October in California along with David Turner. Love you, David. It's really changed our lives. We've gotten a great understanding of what is involved in all the aspects of land stewardship and ecological stewardship. And so we call it our permaculture love story. And if you were to sign our email list, we'll be sending you things that we find really interesting in the world of being regenerative, of connecting to local nonprofits and to people that are doing the kinds of things that create the kind of world that at least Naomi and I have agreed we want to live in. So, you know, it's a way to continue the conversation. I think that if we use some of these terms, if we start thinking holistically about how we organize ourselves, how we do our projects, how we build our cities, how we grow our food, eventually there will be a system that will change the way we live in our world. I have tried to call it many things. I like to think that part of me is revolutionary. I want to see change happen on a very serious and deep level. But again, I don't necessarily know if my brand or my way of thinking is going to be the answer for it, and I don't need it to. I'm just hoping that the actual vision, when we start to get in tune with what makes the world beautiful all on its own, what are the natural patterns happening that make our lives easier? How beautiful can it really be? And living on that farm, can I just tell you this, guys? It was a miracle. I mean it in the truest sense of the word miracle. Here are people that are getting most of their food and most of their energy and most of their water and all their needs off of the land, and the land just gets better. People are not the enemy. It might look like it because we're putting concrete on everywhere, but when we're not, when we're thinking of in tune with the natural patterns that exist, miraculous things can really happen. And I encourage you to take that first step When you go home, look at your house. Look at the water that flows from your house. Look at where the sun hits it in the morning. Look at what kind of plants are growing near it. Look at your neighborhood. What's your community like? Can you see holistically? Can you see from their other viewpoints? Can you go downtown and wonder what is the invisible structures that have created these buildings? Who's really in control here? Or are we all kind of in control? Have we all allowed this to happen the way it has? Has it been worth it? Sure. I'd say no regrets. This is very beautiful. However, if we want to keep it beautiful, we're going to have to figure out how to get our roots really deep down onto this planet. And that's going to take each and every one of you figuring out your own way to have the revolution. Do you want to? I don't know. Let's have it though. And you can do it. And it could be your revolution that I follow. Or it could be yours. Whatever it takes. I think if we're all painting the same topic, if we all see this beautiful planet that we can live with and really abundantly thrive, and we all start painting that picture and designing how we would create it, and we all see it clearer and clearer and clearer, there will be an answer someday, and hopefully someday soon. And I guess that's kind of the topic of what I had to say. Look at the forest, but also worship the trees. Thank you.